She was playing outside, laughter spilling into the warm afternoon air. No one was bothering anyone. Yet in a single moment, everything shifted. A stranger's eyes narrowed, a call was made, and sirens began to echo where they shouldn't have. He was just a child, innocent, unassuming, but suddenly he was seen as a threat. Who would come next? And would justice arrive before it was too late? What unfolded that day would shock everyone who thought they understood fairness. This is a story that can't be ignored. It was a bright Saturday morning in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Jamal, a 12-year-old with boundless energy, ran barefoot across the trimmed grass of his front yard, tossing a worn soccer ball against the garage door. His laughter echoed down the street, mingling with bird song and the distant hum of sprinklers. Jamal's world was simple: school, soccer, and weekends spent playing with friends who lived just a few houses down. His mother, always watchful but trusting of the close-knit community, sipped coffee on the porch, keeping an eye on him without hovering. Nothing about this day seemed unusual, just another sunny morning in their safe, familiar neighborhood. But as Jamal kicked the ball one last time, a figure appeared on the other side of the street, eyes narrowed, jaw tight, gripping a phone. The stranger's stare lingered longer than polite curiosity. Jamal didn't notice. Not yet. Across the quiet street, tension was quietly building. An invisible thread of suspicion, born from assumptions, about to snap. What seemed like an ordinary morning was on the brink of becoming something no one could have imagined. Jamal was just about to chase his soccer ball across the street when a sharp, insistent honk shattered the calm. A car had pulled up abruptly, its tires crunching on the gravel. From behind the wheel, a white woman leaned forward, her lips pressed tight around a phone. Her eyes were fixed on Jamal in a way that felt heavy, invasive, like he was something to be feared rather than a child at play. The air suddenly thickened, the gentle warmth of the morning replaced by an uneasy tension. Jamal stopped mid-step, squinting at her. He had never seen this kind of anger directed at him before, but before he could even ask what was wrong, she raised her phone and began speaking rapidly, her gestures sharp, urgent, accusatory. Jamal's mother, sipping her coffee on the porch, noticed the change in the woman's demeanor, but assumed it was some minor misunderstanding. Within minutes, the wail of sirens cut through the neighborhood. A police car slowed, its lights flashing. But there was no immediate threat, no crime committed. Jamal stood frozen, soccer ball at his feet, heart hammering in his chest. He had done nothing wrong, nothing at all. The officer stepped out, calm but cautious, approaching Jamal's mother first. She tried to explain. He's just a child, playing outside. Nothing happened. But the woman's insistence grew louder, more frantic, painting Jamal as dangerous, as if mere existence could be a threat. Jamal watched, confused and scared, as his world tilted on its axis. Neighbors began peeking from windows, whispers rippling through the street. The tension was contagious. Some instinctively understood the injustice unfolding, others were unsure what to believe. Jamal's mother held him close, shielding him with her body, trying to offer comfort in a situation that defied reason. As the officers asked questions, the woman's story escalated, each word loaded with suspicion. She described threats that had never occurred, painted a picture of danger where there was only innocence. Jamal's pulse raced. Every heartbeat echoed the unfairness of it all. He could feel the eyes of the world, or at least of this small street, on him. Then came the whispers from those who believed her, the subtle judgments in glances, the unspoken accusation hanging heavy in the morning air. Jamal felt smaller, diminished by forces he couldn't understand. The warmth of the sun now felt cold, indifferent, pressing down with weight. Time stretched. Minutes felt like hours as officers debated quietly, caught between the woman's insistence and the mother's calm explanations. Jamal couldn't move, couldn't speak. Just felt the slow burn of fear of being seen as something he was not. The neighborhood that had always been his playground now felt like a courtroom, each streetlight a spotlight, each neighbor a jury member in a case he didn't even know had been opened. As the tension reached a peak, Jamal noticed something, a subtle shift in the demeanor of one officer. A question flickered in his eyes, a hint of doubt about the story he was being told. But before any relief could settle, another call crackled over the radio, pulling the officers away temporarily, leaving Jamal standing in a limbo of uncertainty. The woman's frustration grew, now directed at the police, at Jamal's mother, at anyone who dared question her narrative. Her voice cracked with anger, her face a mask of disbelief that her actions could be scrutinized. Jamal's mother, steady but trembling, tried again to reassure him, whispering that everything would be okay. But in that moment, okay felt impossible. Then, just as the tension seemed unbearable, a neighbor, one who had seen the truth from the start, stepped forward. Quietly, firmly, they challenged the woman's version of events, offering a glimpse of reason. The confrontation created a ripple effect. Other witnesses began speaking up, their voices layered over the initial false narrative. The energy shifted, slightly, but the danger was not gone. Jamal's heart pounded faster with every passing second. He knew the morning that had started with soccer and laughter was now unrecognizable. What would happen next? Would the officers see the truth, or would fear and bias dictate the outcome? The neighborhood, once serene, now felt fragile, poised on the edge of chaos. And then, at the very moment when despair seemed absolute, the car that everyone had been dreading slowly turned the corner. The morning sun, once warm and inviting, now blazed down on Jamal like a spotlight, highlighting every ounce of his fear. The street had grown quiet, the neighborhood holding its collective breath. Jamal's mother stood beside him, hands trembling yet firm around his shoulders, trying to shield him from the intensity of the moment. But there was no wall strong enough to block what was unfolding. The officer, caught between protocol and disbelief, stepped closer. His eyes flickered between Jamal, the woman, and the neighbors. Speaking up, every second felt like a lifetime. Jamal's pulse raced, each heartbeat a hammer in his chest. The accusation hanging over him was invisible yet suffocating. He had done nothing, nothing at all. Yet here he was, treated as if danger itself had walked across his lawn. The woman's voice escalated, slicing through the tension like a knife. She painted Jamal as reckless, aggressive, a threat that could explode at any second. Her words were sharp, rehearsed in their intensity, and they carried a weight that made even the officers pause. Jamal's chest tightened. The reality of being seen not as a child, but as something else entirely, pressed down on him. He felt small, trapped in a storm that had nothing to do with him, but everything to do with how the world saw him. Then a neighbor's voice broke through the chaos, calm, deliberate, undeniable. "He was just playing. He hasn't hurt anyone." Others joined, their statements layering over hers. Slowly, like cracks in a dam, doubt began to seep into the narrative the woman had constructed. But doubt alone wasn't enough. Suspicion still hovered over Jamal like a dark cloud. Time slowed. Every flicker of a badge, every movement of a hand, every glance between strangers felt monumental. Jamal's mind raced, trying to anticipate the next action. Should he run? Should he speak? But fear rooted him in place, while his mother's grip reminded him of the fragility of innocence in a world quick to judge. Then it happened. The woman, frustrated that her story was losing control, leaned forward aggressively. Her eyes were wild, her voice almost a scream now, accusing Jamal of imagined acts of defiance. It was the moment when words turned into an invisible weapon, when bias became action. Jamal shrank back, gripping the soccer ball like a shield. Heart pounding, breath shallow. The officer stepped between them, trying to maintain order, but his voice wavered. He was trained for conflict, for danger, but not for this. Not for the sheer weight of fear and prejudice colliding in a single, ordinary street. Every instruction he gave seemed to hang in the air, unheeded, drowned out by the tension that had become almost tangible. For Jamal, the world felt like it had stopped. The laughter that had defined his morning was gone, replaced by an acute awareness of eyes on him, judgment in every shadow, suspicion in every sound. His mother whispered his name softly, reminding him to breathe, to stay calm. But the instinctive terror of being misunderstood, misjudged, and accused had already seeped into his bones. Then came a sound that cut through everything. A siren, closer this time, signaling backup. Jamal's body tensed. He had no idea what would happen next, only that his fate, his freedom, his very identity as a child hung in the balance. Each passing second magnified the stakes, turning a simple morning into a trial that was being written in real time. And then, the moment of truth. The officer, after a long, tense pause, finally addressed the woman with firm authority. His words carried the weight of clarity, and yet still left room for suspense. Jamal's heart raced as he listened. The woman faltered, her confidence slipping as the reality of her accusations collided with witness statements and the undeniable innocence before her. Jamal's chest heaved, every muscle taut with fear and hope. Could this be the turning point? Could truth finally pierce the fog of bias? He didn't dare hope too much. Not yet. The street seemed to hold its breath. Neighbors leaned forward from windows and porches, silent witnesses to the tension unfolding in slow motion. The woman's shoulders slumped ever so slightly, a flicker of doubt breaking through the mask of anger. Jamal's mother's grip on his arm tightened, a mixture of relief and lingering fear, her eyes locked on the unfolding confrontation. And just as it seemed the tension might finally ease, a sudden, unexpected sound. A car door slamming. A child, laughing from across the street, shifted the energy. The officer turned, assessing, recalculating, aware that any misstep could escalate the situation again. Jamal stood frozen, caught between fear and relief, between accusation and vindication, unsure of which way the day would finally turn. In that suspended moment, Jamal realized something profound. Innocence alone wasn't always enough. Witnesses mattered. The truth mattered. And yet, even in the face of clarity, the weight of assumptions could crush someone if no one spoke up. The air hung heavy, the morning sunlight reflecting off the street, highlighting a truth as sharp and undeniable as the fear that had gripped Jamal. Sometimes the battle isn't just against danger. It's against perception, against a world that can misjudge in a single glance. And then, as everyone waited, the officer made a decision that would shift the course of this morning forever. An action that would determine whether Jamal's innocence would finally be recognized or whether the storm of injustice would continue to shadow him. The tension that had gripped the street for what felt like hours finally began to loosen. The officer, after carefully weighing the statements of neighbors and the calm, unwavering presence of Jamal's mother, took a step that restored what little calm remained. He turned to the woman and, with a firmness that carried authority and clarity, made it clear Jamal had done nothing wrong. The accusations, unfounded and fueled by assumptions, could not stand. Relief washed over Jamal like a sudden warm wave. He sank slightly against his mother, letting out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding for so long. The neighborhood, which had watched in silent apprehension, began to exhale as well. Some faces showed quiet shame, others silent reflection, and a few, rare but meaningful, offered gentle nods of solidarity to Jamal and his family. But even as the immediate danger passed, the weight of the morning remained heavy. Jamal's laughter had returned, but it was cautious, hesitant, as if he had learned too early how fragile innocence could be in the face of bias. His mother, though outwardly calm, felt the deep, lingering ache of fear, an invisible mark left by the realization that even in her own community, prejudice could manifest in the most unexpected and shocking ways. The woman, now silent and subdued, left the scene without further confrontation. Her departure was neither victory nor resolution. It was a reminder that misunderstanding and bias often carry their own quiet consequences. Jamal's mother, holding him close, understood that the world had not changed in that single moment. Only their immediate reality had shifted. Yet that shift was monumental. It reaffirmed truth, courage, and the importance of standing up, even when fear threatened to paralyze action. As the neighborhood slowly returned to its ordinary rhythms, Jamal's story began to ripple outward. Witnesses shared their accounts, recounting the events with clarity and honesty. Social media posts began to circulate, capturing the essence of what had transpired. People discussed, debated, and reflected, not just on the event itself, but on the larger implications, how assumptions, fear, and racial bias could transform an innocent child into a perceived threat in mere minutes. For Jamal, the morning had left a permanent mark. He had glimpsed, in stark and painful detail, the reality of racial injustice. He had felt fear, helplessness, and the sudden, incomprehensible weight of judgment from strangers. Yet he had also felt the power of community, the importance of truth, and the courage of those who chose to speak up. In those moments, he learned lessons that no school could teach, lessons about fairness, perception, and resilience. His mother, reflecting on the ordeal, realized that the incident was not just a personal experience. It was a microcosm of a larger societal pattern. Racism is not always overt, nor always violent. It can be subtle, insidious, and capable of altering lives in seconds. Jamal had faced it head-on as a child in what should have been a safe and familiar place. Yet he had emerged with dignity, strength, and the knowledge that his innocence was undeniable even when questioned. The neighborhood, too, was left changed. Conversations began to surface about bias, judgment, and the responsibility of bystanders. Some grappled with guilt, others with understanding. The event sparked reflection on how ordinary people, simply by observing and choosing to speak up, could make an extraordinary difference. Jamal's story became a mirror, reflecting both the harm of unchecked assumptions and the hope that comes from collective action and moral courage. In the days that followed, Jamal returned to his soccer, games, and weekend routines, yet with a quiet awareness that the world could view him through a lens of suspicion. But with awareness came strength. He understood the power of resilience, the necessity of voice, and the importance of community in confronting injustice. His story, once confined to a single street, became emblematic of a truth that millions face daily. The threat is not always visible, but the courage to confront it is. And while the sun would rise again over the quiet suburban streets, the morning that began with laughter and ended with fear would never be forgotten. Jamal had faced a moment that could have broken him, but instead it became a lesson in endurance, truth, and the transformative power of standing up against bias. This wasn't just Jamal's story. It was the story of countless children and families who, every day, navigate the fragile line between innocence and suspicion. It was a story of fear and courage, of judgment and truth, of prejudice confronted and dignity preserved. And it left a question hanging in the air, one that no viewer could answer lightly. How many more Jamals must face this before the world truly sees? The incident may have ended, but its lessons remained, echoing far beyond a single street, far beyond a single moment. It was a call to witness, to act, to speak, and to never let silence allow injustice to continue unchallenged. Jamal had returned home physically unscathed, but forever changed in awareness and in spirit. The world may not always be fair, but the courage to face it, to stand for truth, and to confront bias, that was something no one could take away.